Hi, my name is Ludwig Liagre. Welcome in the module 2 of this training on how to develop and implement a fundraising strategy for marine protected areas. This second module is about assessing the financing needs of your MPA. I will also introduce the concept of cost-benefits analysis, as it is particularly useful as a decision-making tool for fundraising strategies. This module will give you an overview of the first step in developing a fundraising strategy, which is to analyze the funding needs of your MPA. The module is divided into two components. First, we invite you to watch the video tutorials and use the MEDPlan business planning tool from the training course on business planning for Mediterranean MPAs, which you will find on medpan.org. This first component is to teach you how to calculate your financing gap, namely your financing needs minus your available financing. The second part of the module will focus on the cost-benefit analysis approach, CBA. The purpose of the CBA is to help you plan for future costs and revenues by selecting the most relevant projects as well as activities for your MPA. To do this, it will be necessary to analyze the financial and non-financial costs and benefits. In particular, the costs and benefits of projects and activities on the environment and local communities. The video tutorial on business planning and the MEDPlan business planning tool we suggest you to use will help you calculate the potential financial gap of your marine protected area. The business plan provides an assessment of this financing gap if the projected future cost of the MPA cannot be matched by the future resources and income. To assess the financing gap, it is essential to base the assessment on the conservation objectives of the MPA and the measures and activities planned in the management plan to achieve these objectives. It is on the basis of this management plan that the financing gap, if any, will be determined. If your MPA does not yet have a management plan, it is still essential to base your cost and revenue projections on the MPA's conservation objectives and management measures and activities to be implemented in the future. This is really key to ensure that your future fundraising strategy is well aligned with the goals of your MPA. Note that the financing gap can be reduced by examining whether expenditure items can be re-evaluated downwards. Business planning is really not a linear process, it's an iterative process. We therefore invite you to start by watching the business planning video tutorial. You can do so now by clicking on the link on the screen or at the end of this presentation. It's up to you. You will find this video tutorial on business planning as well as the MEDPlan business planning tool on medpan.org. Now let's explore the cost-benefit analysis approach and how it can be applied to marine protected areas. In brief, a cost-benefit analysis CBA is a decision support tool to assess the benefits and costs of an action, a project, or a policy. In the case of environmental activities, CBA is particularly relevant. Indeed, classical financial analysis is often not sufficient for decision-making. Environmental, social, and economic benefits and costs should also be taken into account. CBA can help to determine if the activity or project is viable, to assess its efficiency and to compare it with alternative projects or activities. Based on this analysis, the most relevant and feasible action in economic, environmental, and social terms can be selected. In the case of fundraising, identifying financial but also non-financial values of activities is a key element to sell the conservation projects and activities to potential investors and donors. Several indicators can be calculated as part of the cost-benefit analysis. Among these indicators, the benefit-cost ratio BCR is a common CBA ratio summarizing the overall relationship between the costs and benefits of an activity or project. Interpreting the ratio is simple. If an activity has a BCR greater than 1, the activity is expected to deliver a positive value for the institution and thus for its potential investors or donors. On the contrary, if an activity has a BCR smaller than 1, then the costs are expected to be greater than the benefits. In that case, the organization should consider revising its activity or choosing a more efficient option. The values compared in a CBA can be quantitative, in particular in monetary terms, or qualitative. However, in order to arrive at a final ratio between costs and benefits, a single unit needs to be used, which can make sometimes the job difficult, especially when it comes to monetizing environmental impacts and benefits. Cost-benefit analysis requires a distinction between direct and indirect costs and benefits. Direct costs and benefits are characterized by the fact that they are easily quantifiable, especially in monetary terms. They are directly linked to identifiable sources. For example, in the context of an organization, direct costs may include salaries and the costs of purchasing materials. Direct benefits can include revenues from sales for a company, for example. Indirect costs and benefits are more subjective. Unlike direct costs and benefits, they cannot be easily quantified or estimated. They are more indirect impacts. For example, in the context of an organization, a drop in employee morale can be an indirect cost. In an urban forestry project, improved health of local communities due to better air quality is an indirect benefit. In a CBA, consideration of indirect costs and benefits is just as important as consideration of direct costs and benefits. In the case of a CBA applied to an MPA, direct benefits may include, for example, entrance fees, bioprospecting revenues, or revenues from the MPA's tourism activities. Direct costs may include operating costs and management costs. Indirect benefits may include the ones derived from ecosystem services, such as landscape beauty or carbon sequestration. Finally, indirect costs may include environmental damage linked to mismanagement of MPA, carrying capacity, also all sorts of opportunity costs. Opportunity costs are the potential economic profit that can be lost by choosing to develop conservation activities to the detriment of economic activities such as commercial fishing, shipping, or natural resources extraction. The present case study is based on a 2012 study published in the Journal of Environmental Management. The cost-benefit analysis in this case study is original in that the assessment of environmental, economic, and social costs and benefits is based on the perception of the main stakeholders of the marine protected area. Thus, more than 240 individuals belonging to several categories of stakeholders, including fishers and diving businesses, were interviewed. Rather than relying on numerical figures, the analysis was based on individuals' perceptions of the economic, social, and environmental benefits of the MPA. After 2 years of consultation, the analysis found that overall, the perceived benefits, direct and indirect, of the MPA outweighed by far the potential costs. Cost-benefit analysis is a decision-making tool that makes it possible to understand in advance the future costs and benefits of a project or an activity, and to consider more relevant options if the costs outweigh the benefits. This tool makes it possible to compare several activities and management models in order to select the most appropriate ones for effective management of the MPA in the long term. Selecting the most relevant and efficient activities is all the more important in the context of limited financial resources, a problem that marine protected areas are currently facing. The analysis and consideration of direct but also indirect costs and benefits is particularly useful for MPAs, as many benefits are indirectly generated by conservation activities, especially in terms of non-market ecosystem services, and also that opportunity costs that can affect the economy and local communities can represent a risk. The CBA can thus support the MPA with investors and donors by showing them the robustness of an argument taking into account a holistic vision of projects and activities which recognize economic, environmental, and social impacts, both direct and indirect. Following this video tutorial, we kindly ask you to complete the assessment for Module 2, which you will find on medpan.org. This short test will allow you to check your understanding of the topics covered in this module. Also note that you will find all the resources mentioned in this tutorial, as well as additional useful resources in the training manual. Really thank you for your attention. Goodbye to all and see you soon for the continuation of this training.